This is Darwin. What?
I love book tags. I know it's no longer in fashion to do them, but I think they're fun. They always prompt me to ask myself questions that otherwise I probably wouldn't, and I always learn something new. So today we will do the Contradictions Book Tag, which was created by Daniela from Only If For A Page channel. I will link her video in the video description. I watched her video a few months ago and remember loving the questions but haven't read them ever since, and it appears that I have forgotten them completely. Way to start filming unprepared. This is the kind of quality you can expect here on the duct tape production. So let's dive in and discover the answers together. Nailed it. Prompt number 1. I love this genre, but I didn't like this book. Well, that prompt shouldn't be too hard. I read predominantly fantasy, so I'm guessing I should stay in that realm. Actually, I'm gonna go with another genre that I adore. And that is adult thrillers. I don't just love this genre, I adore this genre. I can binge read those books all day long. Every time I pick up an adult thriller, I just want to read that for like weeks after that. However, this book nearly got me into a reading slump. And the book is The It Girl by Ruth Ware. I'm guessing I'm gonna be a minority here. I know that a lot of people love this book, but I personally hated it. And I have a full review of it, which I will link up there. But just to summarize it here, I thought that the main character sucked. I thought that the narrative sucked. And I thought that some of the mysteries were executed in a frankly ridiculous way. I hated this book and it bored me to death. And this is the last book by Ruth Ware that I'm ever gonna read. Prompt number 2. I rarely read this genre, but I love this book. Oh, this is actually super easy because it is really fresh. So, I usually hate reading romance books. I find them boring and annoying most of the time. But recently I did this experiment where I read 8 of the most popular romance books on the internet, and this one book just really stood out to me. It got 5 stars out of me, which is very, very surprising. And the book is Be Treated by Emily Henry. This is an adult romance about 2 people who used to know each other back in the university and are now all grown up and are authors writing different things. They meet accidentally at a place and things start happening. This is a terrible summary, but I advise you highly to watch my video because it's a lot of fun, honestly. And this book was absolutely phenomenal. I give a more detailed review in that video, but here I'm just gonna say that the characters were great. They actually felt like real people with real emotions going through real things in life. And their romance, although a little bit quick, wasn't as rushed as in a lot of the other books. I like the setting, I like the people, I liked the conclusion, and I liked the getting there, which is a big part of this book actually. And so I gave this book 5 stars, and I actually am looking forward to reading more by Emily Henry, despite the fact that I kind of hate reading romance, obviously. Prompt number 3. I love this trope, but I didn't like this book. Damn, I only know like 2 tropes, and now I have to figure out which one disappointed me unexpectedly. Let's go to Goodreads and see what in the name of Jesus have I ever read. I think I got it. Okay, I don't know if this constitutes a trope, but I usually love reading fantasy books set in the desert, and I think desert setting could actually kind of qualify as a trope. So yeah, love these, but there is this one book that disappointed me so severely, I couldn't even explain to you. The book is A Torch Against the Night by Saba Tahir. This is the second book in the An Ember in the Ashes series, which is a young adult fantasy, and the big chunk of it, if not all of it, is kind of set in the desert. I loved An Ember in the Ashes, although it did have some shortcomings, and you know, it's not a perfect book, but I had a great time reading it, and I had super, super high expectations about this one, and honestly, I both hated and loved it. I loved the setting, obviously, and I loved the nature of the story, but I didn't like how the execution was done. The whole time I felt as though the author really hates her main characters and is trying her best to make us hate them too. They were making super stupid decisions. Like in the moments when they were supposed to be thoughtful and careful and smart, they were actually rash and irresponsible. And in the moments where they were supposed to actually take action and do something, they were inert and just completely stumped. And that made for a very, very frustrating reading experience. The type of action that they were taking was contradicting their personality and their development all of the time, and it really got me to dislike this book and to dislike these characters and to really question whether I really want to continue with the series. Prompt number 4. I hate this trope, but I love this book. Great, back to the trope encyclopedia. Okay, so I usually severely dislike the hot young girl assassin trope, and not just because it is super played out. I don't usually care about that. What I mean is that I find it super lame. It's always some supposedly very tough girl that is the best assassin out there, and she's all of 16 years old, but she's so hot and everybody wants her, but she has no time for the two most hottest guys in the world that are fighting over her and falling over themselves to show her how much they care. And you know what? Actually throw in a love triangle as well. So we have a hot young assassin girl with a twist of love triangle. That is probably my least favorite trope out there. But this book actually does it to the T, and I still loved it, and I think I gave it 5 stars. And the book is A Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book in the Throne of Glass series, and I really liked the first one as well, although not as much as this one. Listen, I don't know what to tell you. This book is the epitome of what I just described as my least favorite trope. Every single detail, it has it right here. I don't know. I think just the writing style of the author was so great and the world building was so great that I was kind of willing to ignore. I don't know. It's like I have no excuse, okay? It was fun and I loved it, and yeah, I gave it 5 stars. Hypocrisy. Prompt number 5. I love this author, but I didn't like this book. Well, here I could still go with Sabatahir and A Torch Against the Night, but I'm guessing I shouldn't double up and go with another book. So let's think. Oh yeah, I got it. Okay, I have a doozy here. One of my favorite authors out there is Jane Austen. I love pretty much everything she has written, and I think this book is the rare exception to that. And the book is Mansfield Park. Now, by saying that I don't like this book, I don't mean that I hate it. I just mean I didn't like it particularly, especially as compared to her other works. And why that was because the main character was so inert and basically had no contribution to the main story whatsoever. She could have been there, she could have not been there. Things would have transpired the exact same way. She was a nice girl, but a little bit too nice. She did pretty much nothing, just witnessed everything that happened around her. I would like the person that I follow and that I'm trying to empathize with the most actually has something to do with the story. I don't think that's too much to ask. And also the romance was so stale because the guy that she was in love with actually never really showed any love to her. We witnessed him be in love with another girl the whole time, and then him falling out of love with that girl and then falling in love with our main character took all of 1 page, if that. We were just given off-screen summary of what happened afterwards, and that's not what I want. If I want to root for a love story, I want to witness it. I don't want to witness the love story of the main guy with some other chick and then have to imagine the rest of it. It's not a good storytelling technique, in my opinion. Regardless, the book was still well written, and I still enjoyed all the boring details that Jane Austen likes to put in her books and make super interesting. I often say, well, I've said it like once, but whatever. So I said that one time that Jane Austen could write a book about the contents of her sock drawers of 400 pages and I will devour it happily. And that is still the case even with this book. So yeah, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. Prompt number 6. I previously disliked a book by this author, but I loved this book. Well, I don't know that I give authors that many chances. Let me see what I read. Okay, so I looked through all the books that I have read and I couldn't find a single author whose books I disliked and then give them a second chance with another book after that. Now, that probably says something about my reading that I need to examine more deeply, but let me think if I can substitute something in this prompt to be able to actually answer it. I think I got something. Okay, so for this prompt, we're gonna go with V.E. Schwab and the book Gallant. A few years ago, I started reading A Darker Shade of Magic, which is also by the same author, and although I liked it, I couldn't stand the main female character. She was so obnoxious and annoying, and I just needed a break from her, which is why I put the book down for a little bit. I haven't picked it up since then, but it's a temporary DNF. I'm still planning to go back to it because the world was amazing, but I was really frustrated by this main character. Oh my god, I couldn't stand her. I wanted her to die all the time. But then last year I picked up Gallant, which I received in an Illumicrate box, and as a part of a reading experiment to see if the Illumicrate books are actually worth it. You can watch it over here. And I love this book. I thought it was so atmospheric, and I love the characters, and I love the storyline. The one thing I didn't necessarily enjoy is how little of the actual main villain we saw. But other than that, I thought this was an amazing book. This is actually a middle grade horror book. I think that's what it's qualified as, and I had a great time. I had an absolutely great time. I thought it was brilliantly written. It was so beautiful and so touching and scary at times, but not too much. It was just perfect. I guess you can count that as a redemption for an author that I didn't particularly like before, but I loved their book. Let's go with it. Prompt number 7. I love this cover, but I didn't like this book. Well, there's quite a few books that I could go with here, but let me see. I'm always going to my Goodreads read shelf and seeing what I actually read. Okay, so here I could still go with A Torch Against the Night because I love this cover, but again, with the purpose not to double up, I'll just mention 3 others. The first of which is gonna be Iron Widow by Xiran Jie Zhao. Hated this book. That's all I'm gonna say. I have a full review of it in that reading experiment of reading Illumicrate books. This came up in an Illumicrate box. I hated this one, although I love this cover. I think it's gorgeous. Another book that was in the same Illumicrate reading experiment video was The Drowned Woods by Emily Lloyd Jones. This is the special edition cover, and although a lot of people might not love it, I found it extremely beautiful. Unfortunately, the story was mediocre at best. It was so many plot holes, and I'm gonna advise you to watch my video if you're interested in this one, but I really had a very mediocre, terrible time. And the last book that I loved the cover but got disappointed by the contents of the book is a part of another reading experiment, the one where I read a bunch of romance that I mentioned earlier, and that is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. Look at this beautiful cover. It's gorgeous with the hexagons and the bees and the color scheme and all of that. I was so pissed reading this book. Oh my God. Hated it. Hated it. And prompt number 8. I don't like this cover, but I love this book. Ooh, okay. So there are many a book that I've loved but didn't necessarily love their covers, and I know that with the different editions of multiple books there is a leeway there, but I think I'm gonna go with the one book that I've only seen 2 editions of it and I didn't like either of them. So yeah, 1 second. Okay, so I picked a book, and I hate doing this because people are sensitive about their art, and just because I didn't like it doesn't mean it's crap. And the book is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. Listen, this is one of my favorite books of all time. I had such a great time reading it. All 3 times that I've read it, I annotated it and everything, had a great time. But this cover, it's just like, what is it? A chick with a random sword? Like, I understand why these motifs are on the cover, but the way that they're done is just, I mean, I don't like it. These little colors on the side are also, like, I understand why they're there, but I just think the execution is rather mediocre, very underwhelming for me. And I love the white covers. I have a collection of them right there, and I think this is the only one that kind of strikes me as a little bit too meh. And I think this is the UK cover, but the US one, the black one, I don't know if it's a special edition or if it's the standard US cover, is right here, and I hate that one too. I don't like these covers. I think they're very, very underwhelming, but that's my opinion, so there. And that is that. That is the book tag. I am supposed to tag someone, so I guess I will tag Teresa from Sweet Tea Reads. I would love to see you do that tag as well. I don't know if you like doing tags, but I do, so there you go. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope I didn't offend anybody, and if I did, well, life is hard. Deal with it. But it was never my intention to offend anyway. I was just being honest about how I feel about those things. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to see some other book tags that I've done, I will link them over here. Bye!